What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm live stream Tuesday Night Ticket, baby. I'm Howard Bender. With me here is Craig Mish. It's time to take a look at the lines coming up ahead here for Week 5 of the NFL, Week 6 if you want to talk about college football. Craig, tough week for us here in Week 4. Let's touch on that a little bit. Let's talk about what went down for us in the Nugget and the Super Contest, and then we'll look ahead. How you doing, by the way?
I'm doing well. Yeah, we've been at this for over a month. It was our first negative week so far since we've been doing this, so we'll certainly take that. We're obviously trying to win these contests, but we're going to have a bad week here and there. That's what makes these contests so hard to win, especially in the Super Contests, where there are two people that are 19-1 so far this year. 19-1. So we're above 500 in both contests, and we are near the top in both contests as well. But unfortunately, sometimes you're not going to have the luck on your side, and I think that was indeed the case this week. A couple of the picks did not go our way, particularly Vanderbilt playing this past week, where just inexplicably a team scores a touchdown and then just needs to kick an extra point to be down 7. Our line is -6.5. They decide to go for 2. For what reason, I'm not really sure. They get the 2-point conversion, does Northern Illinois, and we lose the game. 99% of the time when a team is down a touchdown, they kick the extra point to make it 7. But in this case, they went for 2, maybe thinking they could still kick 2 field goals in the game. It's something you don't see that often. Although we did see it, I think, in the NFL also this weekend too, if I'm not mistaken. But so that was clearly a bad call, and that ended up being a loss for us. Liberty was a 7-point favorite. They ended up pushing for us. What other games did we fall? Oh, Virginia. I mean, this kid Perkins, the quarterback for Virginia, they were winning in this game. They were winning in the second half in this game. And, man, he just fell apart completely, the quarterback there. And so they had a great chance to win the game and even cover, and then they just made all kinds of mistakes. Perkins threw 3 interceptions. He was sacked 6 times. So, not great calls in college, for sure.
And then Troy was the other one.
Troy was a horrible pick. Troy was the worst college pick that we've had all year. That game, I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of points. It was the most points scored in a college football game all year, maybe in 2 years. They scored like 100 points. They were going back and forth with Arkansas State, but they never had a chance to cover that game. So that was a poor one also. Any other college games to?
No, those were the 4 college ones.
Yeah, horrible games.
For the Nugget, we went 0-3-1.
Horrible. Wow.
In college.
Horrible. We didn't, and nothing that we would have went right. And even the extra games that we were looking at didn't go our way either. So it was just a completely bad read. And then honestly, in the NFL, the one game that looked the best fortunately won. Cleveland did win outright. They were 7-point dogs. They dominated Baltimore. That was one of my favorite picks of the year so far. And then I will say this in terms of the other games. A good lesson, I think, was learned, and not just for me, but for you and for everyone else that is out there, is that sometimes you go away for what works for you. And that is something that we did last week. We didn't look at betting. We didn't look at trends. We just kind of said, oh, the Patriots are much better team than the Bills. The Chiefs are a much better team than the Lions. But historically speaking, and going back years of us doing this, we are never laying 7 points in a game on the road in the NFL. It doesn't matter who it is. Now, the Dolphins are a little bit of a different scenario because they're obviously not trying to win and they're not covering in any games. But you're never even winning 50% of the time in those games where the road teams are favored. And so that triggered me as I'm watching those games, thinking to myself, like, we just should not have done that. And going forward the rest of the season, it will take a miracle for me to endorse a 7-point road favorite of any kind. It just shows you that when teams are at home, they're more likely to cover than not when they're getting points, at least of a touchdown or more. And I was hoping for a split at some point last week in those games. Honestly, the Patriots did not deserve to cover in that game. The Bills played well. They could have played better, maybe even won. Kansas City definitely did not deserve to cover and win that game. So those were 2 losses. Carolina was a great pick. Carolina went on the road at Houston. They won that game. So that was amazing. And then to me, the worst pick so far in the NFL that we've had came last week with Minnesota. Yeah. The worst pick so far. Howard, I don't know what to say about this. That was Minnesota was like the chic pick to win the Super Bowl potentially for a lot of people. and you have arguably the best looking running back in the NFL, not named McCaffrey so far this year. And I don't care that it was against the Bears. I am deeply, deeply concerned for the Vikings. And they'll probably bounce right back this week and win because that's the NFL. The team that looks the worst one week comes back the next week and wins and covers. They're a big favorite this week too. But I got to say, at this point, they've burned me too many times to go back to the well. I'm going to have to pass on Minnesota. I just can't. I don't have a feel for them.
I did have a feel for them. You know what the problem with Minnesota is Minnesota needs to jump out to the early lead. As soon as Minnesota finds themselves on their heels, they don't have the quarterback to get them back into the game. Kirk Cousins is not that guy.
How did that happen?
And the offensive scheme, listen, the offensive scheme, it's been so run heavy and it's been so focused on that because of Kubiak and Dennison. Okay, and Stefanski's handling the passing game there, but they're running a lot of 2 wide receiver sets with 2 tight ends. They're not running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. That moves Adam Thielen to the outside instead of the slot, and that doesn't work well. He doesn't do well against the outside cover corners, and that's what happens. So if Minnesota jumps out to an early lead, they can just grind it out on the ground, and they'll be happy to win that, which, I'll tell you, kind of tilts me towards a lot of the unders when you're looking at Minnesota football moving forward here. But when it comes down to a passing attack, when it comes down to a tough matchup where another team could pop them in the mouth like the Bears did and jump out to an immediate lead, that takes Minnesota out of the action there. So, I mean, blame Kirk Cousins. Blame the favorite run-heavy scheme.
Yeah, I mean, Diggs has had a miserable year. I know he had a good game in garbage time, but fumbling the ball again, like this just continues. And look, at this point with Minnesota, I have to say that I think they look like a disaster. But again, it is betting, and we're talking about spreads here. We're not necessarily talking about wins and losses. And it is just supremely disappointing to see.
But how are they a 5.5 point favorite over the Giants? Who, listen, granted it was Washington,
know, but that's
and they
why,
waxed Washington, but they took down Tampa Bay in a super close one there. How is it that Minnesota on the road in the Meadowlands? How is that?
Because the line is probably right. Because Minnesota is not as bad as they seem, and the world is going to jump on the Giants, and then Minnesota is probably going to win by, 3 touchdowns. It's just the nature of the NFL. But
see, that's the thing, is that goes against everything that I've dealt with as far as analysis of the games themselves, and that turns me off of this game completely. Listen, I get that the Giants secondary is atrocious. Absolutely, their cover corners are terrible, but I'm not going to sit there and buy into Minnesota. Like, Minnesota wins this game and covers the spread if Dalvin Cook rushes for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Or Howard, they scrapped their whole game plan from the beginning of the season, which is not unreasonable to think. They may go back to trying to do what they did before. No,
can't do that. They don't have the personnel for that.
What happened to their quarterback? What happened to Cousins?
He sucks, dude.
Was he always sucking?
Sucks. He's always sucked.
I feel like he used to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and 2 picks.
You know what? Yeah, when he's sitting there, where he's sitting there with Washington and they're playing from behind the entire time, and he's just chucking it up all willy-nilly. He can't hold on to the ball. He fumbles on a regular basis. He throws interceptions because he's losing arm strength. He sucks.
But why did Minnesota give him that money?
Because they're stupid.
The Jets tried to also.
Even dumber organization.
Yeah, it's just shocking to me. That's just one team I just don't have a good read on. But needless to say, probably not a team that will go on or against, at least for a while. But to me, what's interesting is that the Vikings, Howard, they are playing with superior personnel, I think, on both sides of the football than Denver, and they're playing like Denver. Dennison and Kubiak were both with Denver. Like, they're playing the Denver way of football. But try to win on defense, but you got all this talent on all over the place, and you're not even trying to use it. It was a very frustrating game to watch, and yet 12 games in the NFL within the last 5 minutes of the game was a cover or not cover for both teams. Think about that. Yep. Every game went right down to the end, including the Vikings. Even after that disaster, they went down the field, they scored, they got the ball back. They could have went down the field and scored, went for 2, +3 if you had it. We probably still would have lost that one, but either way.
We had it in the super contest where it was Vikings +1.5. We lost that one immediately. I knew that we were losing that one.
These games all come down to the end. Look, New England could have covered easily.
Yes.
But they didn't deserve it, but they could have covered. Kansas City could have covered easily. They didn't deserve it, but they could have. Vanderbilt. Like, the bounces did not go our way this week. You're telling me Vanderbilt was a bad pick? Vanderbilt was a good pick. Liberty was a good pick. We had good picks. The bounces sometimes are not going to go your way. Sure. This past week was that week, and so we get back up on the horse and we do it again.
That's right. So let's take a look. Let's push it all behind us.
Yes.
Let's let it go. It's gone. And let's talk about some of the games this week. You want to start college? You want to start pro? What do you?
We'll get to the Thursday night game because it is actually a good game in the NFL this week. So we should probably touch on that more than we normally do these NFL games.
Oh yeah, but the Rams. They looked fantastic this past.
They look bad,
awesome.
but again, we didn't. Okay, so so next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday has about 4 or 5 great games in college football from morning all the way through night. So this week is a little bit of an appetizer to that. The best game, for sure, without a doubt, on the board, the game that I'll be very nervous about, is undefeated Florida against undefeated Auburn. And going into the season, a lot of people had the Gators ranked in the top 10. Some people thought that they were real. Some people thought that they were a fraud. They didn't play great against Miami. They certainly didn't play well against Kentucky. They've actually fallen being undefeated in the top 10. But the big story in college football this season, without a doubt, has been Auburn. They're undefeated. They're starting this freshman quarterback, Bo Nix, who has just been destroying everybody at home and on the road. And now Auburn, in order to win the national championship, they're going to have to go through Florida. They're going to have to go through LSU. They're going to have to beat Alabama. They're going to have to play in the playoff, probably if they get in there, against Alabama, and then beat Clemson. Like, I don't know how that happens. That's why the SEC, and that's why people who complain about the SEC, they shouldn't put 2 teams in the top 4 in the championship. Well, look what they have to go through to get there. So that's why usually a one-loss SEC team is going to make it over some of these non-Power 5 conferences to get there, and I endorse it. I'm sorry. Look, I'm a little bit of a homer because I went to the University of Florida. But that being said, Auburn is -3 at Florida this week. The Gators have to play Auburn this week and then LSU the following week. So if they win those 2 games, you could vault them right into the national championship picture. As much of a Gator fan as I am, I can't see them beating Auburn and LSU. I think they're going to lose one of those games. Auburn was going into last week's game 50-1 to win the national championship. Now they're under 30-1 to win the national championship. And you may say to yourself, well, why would I take them over a Clemson? Or why would I take them over in Alabama or even in Oklahoma? Well, the reason is that Auburn gets those direct matchups with the teams that are going to be in the playoff, and so they control their own destiny. If you're playing a futures wager right now, and it's not a bad idea on any team in college football, you got to play teams that control their own destiny. Some teams don't at this point. And if they're not going to face teams to get to that 4 seed, at least in the playoff, it's not even worth taking because so many things have to happen in order to get there. So we'll see what happens certainly this week, but that is the biggest game for sure on the schedule. We'll have to keep an eye on BYU's quarterback. He is out for the season. They don't play this week, but that was a team that a lot of people thought could be okay this season. They're now completely done. And we're talking about potentially fading Virginia Tech after it looks like the team has quit. There's like rumors of that. There's like these chat rooms and stuff on the internet saying that Virginia Tech's players don't want to have anything to do with the program at this point. They're getting 13.5. But if the game is at Miami, and Miami's starting this freshman quarterback that no one's really sure about, so I would really love to take Miami in this one. And I don't ever recall Virginia Tech being 14-point underdogs, Howard, in any game in my life. I don't ever remember them being 14-point underdogs, ever. But that just goes to show you and tells you that that's a team that you can consistently fade, I think, for the rest of the season. So those are the marquee games. There's injuries in the Iowa-Michigan game this week, which is a huge one. But we have no real line on that, so there's no betting line. Tomorrow, of course, the Golden Nugget and the Super Contest lines come out, so we'll take our first look at that. And also the Sunday lines, Howard, as we take an early look at some of the NFL games. I know that some stuck out to you this week, and then we'll give a preview for the Thursday night game. But in terms of the way that the lines opened up and where they were now, the one game that sticks out to me, and I know that I don't think we see this one the same way, which is really interesting. To me, I can't believe that Houston is a 5-point favorite over anyone in the NFL based on
we're already jumping into that one, huh?
Yeah, I want to start with that because I don't explain to me how Houston is a favorite over any team in the NFL after the way they looked last week against Carolina.
Before we get into the pro, I'll just throw this out. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight.
All right. I'll take a breather.
Take a breather. Take a little time out here. All right. Monkey Knife Fight, guys. At monkeyknifefight.com, you're playing against the house, not against sharks. It's prop bet games. That's what it's all about. No confusing interface, no advanced degree needed. For a limited time only right now, you can go to Fantasy. You can get the Fantasy Alarm NFL Playbook. You can get that rest of season for free with your first deposit on Monkey Knife Fight today. Go to fantasyalarm.com/monkey and find out more about it and how you can win. And again, it's prop bets, guys. It's very simple. It's a bunch of overs and a bunch of unders, and you sit there and you wager per prop bet and build up your points that way. So monkeyknifefight.com is the site you want to do. If you want to get the playbook for free, sign up through us here at fantasyalarm.com/monkey, and you'll get a free playbook to go with it.
Awesome.
All right. Now you want yeah, I want to get into it too, because listen,
let's go.
Atlanta's never been a team. You want to talk about not having a read on
We've gotten
Minnesota.
Atlanta wrong every time.
We've not
No.
only
I take it back. We took Atlanta as one of our main games against Philly earlier this year.
Early on in the season, it was their first home game, and Philly's entire secondary was out injured.
But a win is a win.
A win is a win. The problem is that I don't have a read on what's going on with this offense.
Does anybody?
Well, that's the thing. Dirk Cutter is he took over this offense, but listen, you've got Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley,
Thank you,
Austin Hooper,
and you get 10 points.
Freeman. You've got all this talent here, and this team sucks. And that's the problem. I don't get it either.
That's why they're going to play well this week at Houston.
I mean, listen, you say that.
Listen, your indictment last week here on this live stream was Houston is like one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they had no business being favored over Carolina.
But
and Kyle Allen.
Carolina has a pass rush. Carolina has a defense. That's what I was talking about with that. Atlanta doesn't have that. They lost Keanu Neal. Their safety, their linebackers are slow. There's little to no pass rush to be had. How are you going to sit there and complain about a struggling offensive line when the defensive line is actually worse?
Let me make one more point, just as a point, and I want to ask you about this, okay?
Okay.
And I want to give you the two different conversations that I will have. And this is the comparison that I would make, and I'll stop. I don't know if we're going to use this game this week, but it does stick out to me like a sore thumb.
Like
the Eagles are 14-point favorites over the Jets, right? If the Eagles win this game 23-21, are the Eagles going to be happy with the result? Probably not. Yes? If they beat the Jets,
they don't care. They just want to win.
Okay, but it would be a disappointing result. Am I wrong? If the Eagles barely beat the Jets?
I feel like you are wrong. I feel like, I mean, it depends.
Because I feel like Houston would be so bleeping thrilled to win this game by 1 point that...
I think Houston would be thrilled to win any game at any point right now.
I just don't like Houston at all, man.
I know you don't like Houston.
I don't. I think that look, there's a lot of bad teams in the NFL. Look, maybe it is just a fact that I'm wrong and Atlanta is one of the bottom 5 worst teams in the NFL, because if they are not, they should not be 5-point underdogs in this game.
I don't think Atlanta is a bottom 5 team in the NFL, but I can't trust them right now because their offense lacks an identity. That's the problem.
They'll show up this week. They're going to show up. I don't want them ever laying points, but what is
it about Atlanta that you think they're going to show up this week? What is it?
I don't like Houston. I think these teams are. I think these teams are even on paper. I think they are even. I think they are the same team, which should make Houston -3 in this game, not 5. And I think by the time the game goes off, it's going to be 3. It's going to go down. I don't think it's going to go up. But again, come Friday, we'll make our decision on that. Any other games that you're looking at early?
Yeah, there are a bunch of games I'm looking at, actually. I'm looking at a number of road dogs, actually.
Okay.
Dangerous as that might seem.
We got to go back. All the dogs were winning. We got to go back to that.
I like the Jaguars plus 3.5 against the Panthers. I think the Panthers are coming off 2 very emotional road wins.
You're like the Panthers whisperer this year.
Well, there you go. I'm telling you.
I like the Panthers. I like the Panthers. I don't like the Panthers. I like
Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen had a great debut. And then
whatever you want to do with the Panthers, I'm on your side.
All right, then. Jags then plus 3.5 is my lean. Broncos. How about that one? Broncos plus 6.5 against the Chargers, dude. The Chargers are terrible.
We're taking the Broncos again.
Yeah, why not?
Oh
Right?
my gosh. I don't
Come
know.
on, you love taking the Broncos.
I can't take the Chargers, but I don't know if I could. Denver? Oh my gosh, are they decimated, man? They lost the linebacker now?
They did lose Bradley Chubb. That is the issue there. That is the issue.
I mean,
and
that's
Melvin
a game.
Gordon's coming back.
I thought he was hurt. What happened to him?
Melvin Gordon? No,
he didn't get hurt last week?
They claimed that there was some sort of like hammy twinge, but that was just an excuse to keep him on the sidelines. He's back this week.
Let's see.
How about the Browns plus 3.5 at San Francisco?
I don't know. I think the Browns may have peaked last week.
Really?
That's a huge game to come off of. I mean, and look, San Francisco's coming off a bye week. That's dangerous going against teams off a bye week. Bucks Saints only minus 3.5. Tampa Bay played better last week than anybody would have thought. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Bears Raiders. The Raiders. See, I told Raiders I said the Raiders would show up last week against Indianapolis. Should have went with that one instead, but I didn't do that in any pool I did. I could not take the Raiders in London. It would have to be the Bears or nothing for me.
Yeah, I agree. Even with the 4.5 points. What about Arizona at Cincy? Do you like that one at all? I mean, those are two of the most putrid defenses around.
I could only take Arizona, but that's a bad pick. That is a bad pick. That's me overreacting to Monday night. Cincinnati's at home. We should be taking the Bengals or nothing. Bengals win big against Arizona. Got to eliminate the week before. If you don't do that, you're kidding yourself. That's the problem with this. It's hard. It's hard to not have bias based off the previous week. And how about the Chiefs on Sunday night? They didn't cover last week. They didn't cover the week before. Now they're 10.5 against the Colts. You know that number is going to go up. People are going to bet more on Kansas City. It's going to be 11, 12. Probably not going to be able to touch that.
I mean, come on. How many times has Patrick Mahomes thrown for no touchdowns in a game and then come back and thrown 3 or 4 the next time?
Dallas, Green Bay. That line is now 3.5. So, a little wide open. I don't like Green Bay though. I think I'd lean Dallas here. I don't like what I've seen from the Packers in any of the games that I've watched this year. I don't really like what I see. And Adams being out, that's a big one, right?
Adams being out is a big one, but then on the other hand, on Dallas, you got Tyron Smith who's out on the offensive line. Tackle? Yeah, that's a big deal for them.
Yeah,
that's a big deal for them. I don't particularly like that game either.
We're going to struggle for the games this week. Do we like Thursday night's game? Should we be putting a pick in for the Super Contest on Thursday? We have not even asked that question all season long, but the games have been so dog all year that we haven't. I can't.
Not in this one here. Not with.
Tough one, right?
It's Seattle at home. They're favored by 1.5 over a Rams team that just got their asses handed to them by Tampa Bay. And that that blew me away. How did that happen? How does that even remotely happen?
Goff just doesn't look good. I know he came back and threw for 500 yards, but he did not look good in the first half. And at this point, and on the show that I'm doing, the radio show that I'm doing, I keep talking about Gurley. Like Howard, he's like done, right? Like it's like Gurley's at the end, pretty much, right?
I mean, you're not going to get a 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
No more, right? Anymore. How did that? What happened so fast? The knee? That's just
arthritis in the knee, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if that's the case, then aren't you like starting to pivot to some of the other guys they have there? Like I don't get what their game plan is. I saw at the half he had no carries or 1 carry. Like I don't care if you're down 21-0. Like Gurley was the main reason why the Rams won as many games as they did the last 2 years. Fair. And now,
listen, it ended last year, Craig.
I know the Super Bowl was a complete misfire.
Forget the Super Bowl. It was the last 4 weeks of the season that Gurley didn't play. He didn't play throughout the playoffs. He didn't play at all.
It's very sad. I don't know that. Will he play? If I gave you an over under of him playing 1 more year, will he play 1 more year?
Yeah, probably.
And that's it, though, right?
He'll probably try to string it out as much as he possibly can. He doesn't know any better.
I can't believe it. I mean, this time last year, he was the number 1 player in fantasy football.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know what the Rams are doing. I agree with you there. Do you want to give any lean or side if we're not going to pick this for Thursday? We're doing amazing with our Thursday night picks without picking them. So I don't know. Maybe we should be picking these games because we did.
Well, listen, I'll take. If you want to take Seattle, I'll take Seattle. Exactly. Seattle minus 1.5 here.
I like the under 49.
considering what I saw with the Rams against Tampa
The
Bay,
Seahawks are going to run a lot, right?
they should. Yes, they
But
should.
the Rams may not, though. Yeah, you're right. The Rams may not.
Rams are going to have to throw, and Seattle's secondary is atrocious.
Boy, this is not a strong endorsement. Anymore. All right, so we'll wait till Friday night.
I mean, I'll lean Seattle, but I don't love it. Yeah.
Because the Rams could show up. That's a very hard game to handicap. The Rams could all of a sudden show up, but
when was the last time you saw Seattle in a home game where they weren't favored by more than
I agree with you. It's a great point. I agree 100%. Always. And when was the last time they were favored by that? 2 weeks ago against the Saints.
Yeah.
How'd that go? This NFL is like upside down this year. How are we doing well in the NFL? I don't
Because you know what? Because the NFL wasn't upside down until last week. Everything was fine. Weeks 1, 2, and 3, everything looked good. We were riding high. We were feeling good. Week 4 came, and the football gods were like, ugh.
You know, the casinos in Vegas made more money last week than they did in the last 2 years.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because every idiot was like, oh, I've got a complete easy beat on every NFL game right now. Look at how great I'm doing.
Yeah, and the other thing too is when the favorites. Here's a good lesson for people to learn that we're doing a lot of straight betting. Of course, there are a lot of different ways that you can bet. You can bet parlays, you can bet teasers. A lot of people are silly and they bet these teasers. And these teasers, you're getting 6 points in a 2-team teaser for each team. So 6 with one and 6 with the other. Like how many people last week would have teased down, oh, the Rams are definitely going to win. I don't know if they'll win by 9.5, but I'll just tease it down to 3. Loss for everybody.
Right.
Colts 7-point favorites. Well, let me tease down. The Colts are definitely going to beat the Raiders. I don't know if they're going to. And so all of those teasers all lost, man. Like all of them. And these parlays too, like having the Chiefs in a parlay or having the Patriots in a parlay against the spread, those lost as well. So I really at this point think that we had, again, all the games went down to the end. You can't beat yourself up about that in gambling. You can beat yourself up about the Vikings to a degree last week. That was clearly a pick that we shouldn't have made. You could beat yourself up about Troy, which is the first time that we could even give 2 picks if that's the case. But the only thing that I'm really upset with is just going a little bit too far out of the element. And if we are going to pick a team, for example, like the Patriots or the Chiefs, that's a big road favorite. We'll take one. We should have never taken both. I mean, the odds of that happening, you're just asking for a loss. There was just, as I thought about it and as I'm watching the games, I thought to myself, I mean, both these road teams, big favorites or not, one of them is going to surprise. And then I texted you like toward the end of the games. I'm like, listen, I'll just take one cover right now at this point. And fortunately, none did. But we'll check back in on Friday night. We'll have our picks. And, we'll do better this week. We'll definitely do better.
We're definitely going to do better. No doubt about it. So that's going to do it for us here on the Tuesday night live stream for Wager Alarm. Big thanks to our producer, Matt Sells. Here we go, baby. Let's dive in. I'll fight you on Atlanta tooth and nail. Just imagine an Atlanta-Minnesota game. You and I will be out of our freaking minds.
Well, Atlanta, we did get one pick right, but I feel like the teams that we've gotten wrong the most since we've started this are Minnesota, Atlanta, and the Raiders. I feel like those 3 teams we have just had in 2 years, like almost no beat on whatsoever. Is that fair? Like those 3 teams? Have we ever taken the Raiders and won in 2 years?
Oh no, dude!
Definitely not.
But see, I've tied that in. That's longer than just 2 years. That's me and my history of picking against the Raiders.
We don't know ever what's going on with the Raiders. The Falcons, until they make massive changes, will never take as a favorite. I will never take the Falcons again as a favorite. As a dog, I may do it. And yeah, the Vikings they break my heart, man. They just break my heart. I've been wrong on them so many times the last 2 years. I've probably been wrong on them 4 or 5 times.
And yet you still try to convince me that we should take the Vikings.
All right, I'm done.
Are you?
I know when to quit. I know when to.
Do you?
Last week, I got to admit, if there was an extra game, I would have went back to the well with Denver again at home, and they lost to Jacksonville. But I said, you know what? It's time to quit. And I quit on Denver.
There you go. Well, all right. We'll put you in Vikings rehab at some point or another as well.
I'll wear purple.
Please don't. All right, that's going to do it for us here today. Again, big thanks to Matt Sells, our producer. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. This has been the Wager Alarm live stream. We'll catch you next time.